out to play, the game's not even close. When they're moving the ball, it's like the Ravens were powerless to stop Vernon Davis or anything down the field. But it's like they didn't have their focus for most of the game until the second half.
That's a pretty good point, Darryl. I think you, Brett, would agree. They gave up 66 points in the first half in 3 games, 23 in the second half. 1 offensive touchdown in 3 second halves against the Packers, Falcons, and now Ravens. 1 offensive touchdown in 3 games in the second half. But 66 points in the first half, down in all of them, never had the lead in this game, obviously. They were the least focused team 3 consecutive postseason games in the first half.
Has to be their MO because it's not just specific to this game, but there's a reason why I flipped my pick late in the week from the Niners to the Ravens. For one was just looking at Flacco versus Kaepernick. I felt like Flacco might play a little bit better. But my other reason, having been in New Orleans and watching Media Day, I sat there and I watched John Harbaugh talk for a half an hour. I watched Jim Harbaugh talk for a half an hour. John was gregarious and he was having fun and laughing and enjoying his time, and Jim was tight and fierce and stern. And I thought if these players and this team at all is a reflection of their coach and his temperament, and they have 2 weeks to watch him instead of 1, if they're going to come out a little bit tight, a little bit concerned, and not play free and easy, I felt like maybe the Ravens might have a chance to give a big lead and make it hold up. They did, and I don't know if I'm on the money at all or I'm just completely off base. But Jim Harbaugh, if his team is a reflection of his personality and temperament, no wonder they come out a little bit tight and fall behind sometimes, because he is a taskmaster.
Yeah, I really shouldn't. I'm not sure why it is, and that might be one of the reasons. But the fact is it's happened, and it's happened on 3 separate occasions. It wasn't overwhelming against the Packers. It helped that the Packers just couldn't get anything going offensively. But the other 2 games, no question. You know, Matt Ryan played very well for the majority of the game and exceptionally well in the first half. And this is an awesome Niners defense on paper. It was an awesome Niners defense the last 2 years. And yet if you look at their postseasons the last 2 years, they're giving up 30 points more often than they're not giving up 30 points, which is shocking. They did it twice this year. They obviously did it last year in their win over the Saints. It's a little bit baffling how limited their pass rush has been in all 5 of these playoff games. For the most part, it's not been what it has over the rest of the season. So that's an issue. I think he had a comment, though, in there about Flacco, about kind of downgrading his importance in this game, and I wouldn't disagree with that. I'm okay, I think, with calling it somewhat of a even matchup between he and Matt Ryan. In terms of if I really sat down and watched those 2 guys and you made me pick one of them, I don't know much that would separate them. You know, Ryan's had less success in the playoffs as a team, and Flacco's had more. But if you look at how Ryan's performed individually in these 5 games he's played, and then relate it to who he's playing with, the rest of his team, if the Falcons have been in the playoffs the last 5 games, it's because their offense is good and their defense stinks. And the offense has to win the game for him every time, and he's been unable to do that but once. In Flacco's case, he's got 9 career wins in the playoffs, but how many of them came when he completed 4 passes and 10 passes and had 90 yards or did nothing because his defense was just so good? So factor all that in and then maybe get to today. Who are these guys today? I think they're right next to each other in the hierarchy of quarterbacks. I'll give Flacco the slight nod because I can't deny what he just did. It's one of the greatest, if not the greatest, runs for a quarterback in the postseason, certainly in the Super Bowl era ever. So he gets the nod over Ryan. I view them very similarly moving forward in terms of what they're capable on any given Sunday.
And he's winning those playoff games on the road. So you're right, the defense played a big role for the Ravens going back in recent seasons, but quarterback can take his team on the road, win games, especially out east in these cold temperatures. He might get some bonus points for that.
He does. A lot of his postseason wins have come on the road or now at a neutral site. But bottom line, not in Baltimore. 13 starts. He's had a couple of token games in Baltimore. But more often than not, they've been away from home, and he's been pretty good. I wanted to bring up something about the awards over the weekend. There was no surprise, I think, for any of them. Player of the Year and Rookie of the Year. Maybe RG3 winning Rookie of the Year over Wilson and Luck is a minor surprise. But Defensive Player of the Year, there was no surprise for sure. That's J.J. Watt's award. He outplayed everybody in the NFL. The AP does it this way. You get a vote, you vote for one person, and that is that. There's no second and thirds handed out. You are allowed to split your vote. It's fairly infrequent. It did happen for the MVP vote this year, but it did not in this case. 50 voters. Tell me who your guy is. Write it on a piece of paper and send it in. And 49 of the 50 voters said it was J.J. Watt. They give it to 50 voters, so they'll rarely get it wrong, but I still have an issue with this. Von Miller got one vote. Ashley Fox from ESPN, who's one of their online national columnists, gave the vote to Von Miller. And I was waiting over the weekend since this was announced to see something on Twitter from her, small explanation, maybe a full write-up, maybe something she had already written early in the year indicating this is the way she was going. So I would be prepared today to take the proper course of, or the right amount of venom, let's say. But she hasn't done a thing yet, and hasn't said a word about it, and I just can't figure it out. Von Miller had a season at outside linebacker that we've seen 10 times before, and barely, maybe better than a couple of other outside linebackers. Probably better against the run than some people give him credit for, and he's phenomenal against the pass, and pretty good in pass coverage, too. The best outside linebacker in football this year was Von Miller. But there's no way he was the best defensive player in football. Just no way.
I stepped into the Dial Global radio booth at Reliant when the Texans were playing the Colts late in the year, and their broadcasters at halftime said J.J. Watt might be the best player in the National Football League. They didn't say defensive player. They said this guy might have the biggest impact of any player right now. And so obviously that would bode well for him to win the Defensive Player of the Year. And Von Miller had a great year. Yeah, you're right. There's no doubt about that. But J.J. was outstanding.
There were some legendary seasons this year. Adrian Peterson had a legendary season. Almost the greatest season ever rushing, but off of what he was doing, off of the injury he had, I should say, the fact that they couldn't throw the ball for most of the year. Everybody knew it, and it didn't matter. He was still going to get his 150, 200 yards a week and then get over 2,000. That's legendary stuff. That's once in a decade. That's once in a lifetime almost. And that's what J.J. Watt did. Who do you compare J.J. Watt to in NFL history? It should take you 5 seconds to realize the answer is nobody. It's never happened before. What he did this year was legendary. Individual award. His team was also very good, but it's an individual award. He did things at his position nobody is supposed to be able to do because nobody's ever done it before. And just simply stating that without getting into all the numbers, which you know I want to do, but I won't. That's what he did that Von Miller, Aldon Smith, or Richard Sherman or anybody else. That's what they didn't do. They had really awesome seasons for players at their position that we've all seen before. And those players in years past have won Player of the Year awards. We've never seen this before in the NFL. And I don't know if they weren't paying attention enough or they were discounting it for some reason, that Denver ended up being the number 1 seed and the Texans were 3rd. Like I said, I want to hear the explanation so I know exactly where to shoot the arrows.
Can we get him a better-looking award? It looked like a candle holder or like
weird.
A giant paperweight. It did not look
an
like
award much more worthy of being prominently displayed
indeed.
At the house.
I mean, you put that up on your mantle and someone said, hey, is that a parting gift they gave you at the Super Bowl?
Did you do a commercial and win an award for something? Or?
NFL Defensive Player of the Year. It looked like a candle holder. Let's get him a better trophy, a better-looking award for the mantle.
I would expect to see him in the mix